One. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for spending time with us again on our YouTube channel for the Upcycled Cloth Collective. Now, for those of you who've missed me, thank you so much for your patience with my process. I've moved home, and as you can see behind me, I am finally set up in my new studio so that it is presentable for recording video. And also, I've managed to solve my tech challenges. I had some rather hectic challenges with my computer. Those are finally sorted out, and I'm finally back on my horse making video. So I'm very excited that for the first video in the season for 2021, I'm interviewing Kate Mason, who makes carnival costumes from upcycled resources. So Kate, over to you. If you'll please tell us your story. How did you start using upcycled resources for carnival costumes?
It goes back quite a long way, really. I grew up in the 70s, and whenever we needed a fancy dress costume, my mum would go into the rag bag and create. I think most children of the 70s would recognise that as a situation. When I had my own home, I made everything for the curtains and bedding out of upcycled sheet, and made curtains out of sheet, and everything was always recycled. It stopped for a bit when I had a baby, and then my little girl started dance class, so I had to make costumes, and always I went for what have we got, how can we change it, rather than what can we buy. This went on to World Book Day, which seems to be several times every year, but it might not have been. And because I ran the local nursery, I also did World Book Day costumes for lots of other children in the village. So I built up this real stock of costumes, and I could produce a dragon or a Roman toga or an Elizabethan outfit in just about every year group. Carried on with the dance costumes, because when you have a little girl that dances, you do. And then became involved in making costumes for her as an adult when she went to performing arts school. And about 18 months, nearly 2 years ago now, I left my job and I decided to set up by myself as an independent seamstress. I don't quite know what the term is because that doesn't cover what I did. 6 months down the line, I decided I was an eco designer. I don't buy new things. I buy new thread, although I've just found out that there's recycled thread that's come on the market, so I'm going to be trialing that with my next colours that I buy. And I don't buy the little poppers that you put on the back of baby dresses, because once the claws have gone in, you can't get them out. But I've got recycled buttons, I've got recycled ribbons, I've got recycled bias binding. I buy all sorts, as you can see from the mess in the room behind me.
It's amazing. It looks like a wonderful treasure chest of resources.
2 stories. There's upstairs as well.
Oh wow! But it's quite tight. It's quite small. It looks quite small.
This is the spare bedroom, so it's about, I don't know, it's about 10 by 10. Okay. And upstairs is the full width of the house, so that would be about 22 foot attic with the eaves.
Okay.
And that was built last year, and it was finished just before lockdown, and it's got tenting to cover all the roof timbers. And I didn't get a chance to use it because my daughter and her boyfriend moved in because of the situation last year, and it's now a streaming studio for games.
Ah, fantastic.
With all my rolls of fabric on the floor around him.
Wonderful multifunctional spaces in the modern age.
Totally. In December 2019, my then 22-year-old daughter put forward a proposal to the Arts Council to do a play about the progression of dance from Guinea in the 1400s through the Caribbean and Cuba to 21st century Britain. particularly Notting Hill. And as part of that proposal, she assumed that I would make the costume. My job is I make things for my daughter. We were told it would take 3 attempts to get any funding. You wouldn't get the full amount you applied for. It could take years before they paid the money to you. And within 3 months, she had the money in the bank.
Wow.
She got it on her first attempt, which for a little girl that left school at 16 with just her GCSEs is pretty good.
That's amazing.
Performing arts school, so you know A-levels weren't needed.
That's amazing.
So I was then presented with, well, here are all the themes. Can you make the costumes, please, Mum?
Okay.
So Monica here is wearing my very first carnival costume. She's Monica the mannequin.
Such a lovely name.
It's based on a leotard that she had during college, which was pre-made. And then I had to work out how to make what I soon learned was called a backpack and tail feathers. I worked out that the bit at the top was called a headdress. I knew that much.
Okay.
So first of all, I had to find feathers, second-hand feathers.
Is that a tricky thing to do?
In huge quantities.
Yes.
I could find 6 or maybe 8.
Okay.
9.
But all different colours, I bet.
Yeah. And I could find them all in white. Do you know what I mean? I could from the wedding industry, I could have bought thousands in white, but we really wanted colour to represent the Caribbean and the African heritage.
And have you ever thought of dyeing your feathers?
No.
So
No.
if you get
I don't really dye yet. I keep watching your stuff, but I don't dye yet.
So if you get a dye for wool, it should work on the feathers.
Oh, I'll remember that for next time.
Yes.
But I managed to pick up 2 huge green wings that had been used for Notting Hill already, which you can see in the headdress and at the tip.
Yes.
And because they are a particular type of feather, they're very stiff, so they provided a lot of structure.
Okay.
And then I picked up 150 purple plumes for £25. Which was just completely bizarre. eBay, it was just such a success. The green feathers, the wings, were from Facebook.
Okay.
So they arrived and I had them on the kitchen table, all these feathers, and I had no idea how to make something substantial and wearable and 3-dimensional.
Yes.
And kitchen table, my husband opened the cupboard, and there in the cupboard was the pan lid stand, which is a wire rack where you put the biggest pan lids at the bottom and it gets smaller and smaller until you've got the little one at the top screwed in on the inside of the cupboard door. And I thought, oh, turn that the other way up, that's just about the right shape. So I borrowed it, you know, the way you do.
Yes.
And I had to flatten the racks flat, so because they were like that, so I made them more like that so that it wasn't too deep. And my daughter sort of tried it on, held up against her back and said, Mum, I can't dance in that. It's too hard, it keeps getting caught on my neck and my shoulder and my hip. It's not going to work. So I got grey insulation. Now I don't know if we can see them. Let's just have a little look. There's a little bit there.
Yes.
Not very good, is it? I'll have to work on this. There we are. There.
Yes, I can see that.
So I put that around the outside of the wire frame, and of course, because it's designed to go around tubing, it fitted quite well.
Okay.
And then I wrapped that in place with gaffer tape so that it was firm. And then I started sticking the feathers on, and there are all photos of this that I can give you showing how the progression went. But it was a very narrow backpack It wasn't this big exuberant thing that you think of when you say Notting Hill or Carnival. So I put cross pieces of cardboard, the longer piece, the shorter piece, shorter, and then quite narrow, to give it a very much a triangular shape. And then I put the feathers towards the edges of the triangle. And then with a hot glue gun, I stuck some in that way and some in that way so that it covered the whole space. And then I couldn't get a curve at the top. So I got some garden wire and I coiled that up using my daughter's boyfriend and some pliers. He held it in one place and I twisted and made a halo. And then we used that to pad the feathers against, and the other side as well. And then finally, we had to work out how to fix it onto a body. So in the corner was a rucksack that had ripped and the zip had been broken out of. So I cut the straps off that and I fastened it to the wire at the back. It comes down and crosses across Monica's boobs and fastens at the back behind the backpack. And then I put a second belt, an old school belt with the little 3 things that go like that, to hold it up. So we've got the backpack straps holding it to the body and then the belt holding it above the waist so that she was able to move her hips and her legs freely. I then used feather boas to go round the padding because we don't want to see the padding, and I used feather boas to make the tail feathers. And that's about it. I used a bit of African fabric again. Let's see if we can get that up on the headdress.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then also we made little armlets. I'm not very good at this, am I? And the same round her legs. And then on the back, if I can turn her, she's not going to collapse. We've put the fabric almost like teardrops.
That's beautiful.
Mainly to hide the bits that weren't so good.
You created a fabulous focal point there, I think. Because the carnival obviously moves down the street, doesn't it? So you need it needs to be pretty all the way around.
Exactly. And it turned out that my daughter couldn't do the play that she wanted to do because of the rules. But we did a film. And the film is being released on Windrush Day.
Oh, that's wonderful. Month. Oh, that's amazing.
Which is really, really amazing. It'll be on YouTube. I might link to it from my Facebook, possibly.
I think it's wonderful.
The really odd thing for me is that for my whole life, I've made costumes and dance costumes for my daughter. And I've done it for free, and I've done it out of bits of junk around the house because that's what I was brought up to do. My mum did it back in the 70s.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the Arts Council is paying me to do something that has been such an integral part of my life ever since I was a mother. And that's been quite interesting, the feelings around that.
Does it feel strange?
You know? It feels very odd.
Okay.
Very, very odd to be paid for something that you do because you do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't you feel that your time is worth money in the same way that a doctor's or a dentist's is?
It would be. And when I'm making a costume for somebody else, I charge without thought, without question. I'm doing a litterbug costume for a local village who want to encourage the children to be more socially aware. And they will be charged for the costume. And it will be made out of recycled fabric and recycled wellies and recycled denim. But when you're making something for your family, it feels so different. It was lovely to be paid. It was exciting. It was marvelous. And as you say, it's only right that I am paid. But
Yes.
when my little granddaughter, who doesn't exist in the midst of the future, starts ballet class and wants a dance costume,
Yes.
we'll go back to normal.
Are you looking
I
forward
think,
to that grandchild?
no, too early yet. She's got
Okay.
years of dancing ahead of her yet.
Yes. Yes, it
I
would.
think that I think the idea of being eco or green or sustainable is such a popular thing at the moment
Mm.
that we forget that our grandparents did it without thought.
Yes.
If you grew up in the 70s in the UK and you were a bit short cash, make do and mend was the mainstay of your whole existence.
Yes. Yes.
You didn't go out and buy new.
Yes.
It was really only in the 80s and 90s that started to become much more of a thing. And then that really took off. And now we're seeing a swing back to what have you got? How can you
Yes.
make that happen with what you've got rather than go out and buy new things?
Yes. Yes. Do you feel the expectation has changed? More people expect that they're going to have more.
Yes, I think so. And I think people are really shocked when they see something like the carnival costume or the wedding dress that I made out of a duvet cover. They're really shocked that they weren't made out of new fabric, that they weren't, that I didn't go to a shop with a shopping list and say, I'll have one of those and 25 of those and 3 of those. They feel that, it sounds posy to say it, but they feel that nothing that good could be made out of other people's rubbish.
Yes. Yes.
Other people's discard.
And I find that's quite it's kind of a kind of a push-pull situation that we're in as upcyclers. So we want to make it look classy so that it doesn't look like it comes out of the garbage. And then as soon as you do, people don't recognize it as upcycled anymore.
Yeah, very much so. And, you know, I made 22 costumes for this show. And the only new thing involved in it was the thread.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know, we've got long skirts, we've got underskirts, we've got, I can't tell you how many individual items. I've just put an exhibition up at the Forum in Norwich, and the mannequin that was wearing the costume had 4 layers of skirt on her, plus a blouse and a scarf. So, you know, those 22 costumes, at least one of them had 6 components.
Yes.
And they were all existing fabric. Nothing was bought new.
Wow. So where do you source most of your fabrics from?
Facebook, eBay, friends. I've got some blue curtains. Would you like them, Kate? Yes, please. I went to a cafe that I go to very occasionally, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And the lady said, oh, you're the lady that makes clothes out of old things, aren't you? I said, yeah. And she said, I've got this for you. And she lifted out this sewing box.
Yes.
And the last time I'd been there, 3 or 4 months before, I'd been talking to a lady about what I did. And she had come into the cafe because she had no way of contacting me and left her mother's sewing box.
Oh, wow.
With all of its content for me
That's
to use
amazing.
in my project.
Oh,
because
wow.
she knew I went to the cafe, so I would come in and I would collect it.
Oh, that's amazing. What an amazing story.
And it just fills you with awe that people will give you their treasures. You know, another lady has given me 5 tapestries because I put tapestries on the back of jackets. I wasn't able to use them because of the size of them, so I've passed them on to a friend who will make them into bags, big tapestry bags. And then the frames that they came in are going to another friend who will fill them with art and sell them.
Wonderful.
And it's almost a closed system with not quite zero waste, but very close to zero waste.
Yes, yes.
We laughingly say that my sewing machine's run by solar power because I have solar panels on the roof. And I have an electric bike, so that's solar powered as well when the sun shines. And I cycle to the charity shops in the local town and I pick up things and I put them in my saddlebags and I cycle home. And then on Facebook 2 weeks ago, I saw a bike trailer and I bought it secondhand, cost more than it would have cost new. And as soon as I've worked out the fittings, when I go to the charity shop next time, I'll be able to bring home much more.
Where do you store it all?
I've got a plan next to make some Georgian clothes.
Okay.
So, you know, the very high-waisted Laura, Jane Austen, little velvet jacket.
Yeah.
I've got this bedding that will make an absolutely beautiful white skirt with embroidery on.
Yes.
And then some green upholstery velvet to make the little jacket.
Yes. And
some leftover bits of cord to make the little fastenings with some old buttons.
So what do you enjoy the most about making these garments? Is it the treasure hunt? Is it thinking of new ways to work with old materials? What part of it excites you the most?
I think seeing people wearing clothes that have been made from essentially waste. You know, once you've sent it to the charity shop, you've closed your mind on it, haven't you? You've got rid of it. Once you've sold it on Facebook, you're getting it out your house because you don't want it. So it's using things that people don't want to make things that people love.
That's so beautiful. I love it.
It's an emotional connection, I think.
Yes, yes.
And you see, there's some things I'm not going to be able to do to be green, to be eco, to be sustainable. With the best will in the world, I'm never going vegan. It's not going to happen. But we went from 2 cars to 1 car and got 2 bikes. That was a huge step. I got the solar panels in 2019 that I've been trying to get since about 1991. So one of my things, and I say this to people, is do the stuff that you can do to be sustainable. Don't worry about the things that you can't do. If everybody did the things that they could do that were emotionally safe for them to do, the world would be better. But don't worry about the stuff that can't happen.
That's such a great outlook. I so often people make comments in the group where it's almost like it's a competition who can outdo the next person, and it's not a competition. It's not I'm doing more than you. It's about here's a bunch of ideas, and we all come from different frameworks and different circumstances. Particularly in a global community, you can't expect everybody to come from the same framework.
And also, have you come across the attitude where people say, oh, well, I can't be vegan, so therefore there's no point me reusing fabric because I'll never do enough. I can't do it all perfectly, so there's no point doing any of it.
Yes, yes.
And that is so against what I believe. I believe, you know, if you use 1 less roll of toilet roll a year, if you buy 1 jacket from a charity shop, if 1 day a month you have a vegetarian meal, you know, all of those things are cumulative and they add up and they become greater than the individual collectively. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody's individual efforts make something that's worth so much more than the individual amount that it changes.
Yes, yes, yes.
I feel that very strongly. I think that, you know, people say, oh, there's no point me walking to work because me not driving my car for 2 miles won't make a difference. But if 75 people don't,
yes, yes,
over the country, that's the difference.
Well, we've
Sorry.
seen the impact over COVID-19. How you know, by being forced to make different choices, things do change.
Yeah, air quality change in the big city. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I don't have business cards. I ask people to take a photo of my details at events rather than give out business cards.
Okay.
Because if I don't have business cards and someone else doesn't and a third person doesn't, that's nearly a whole tree.
Yes, Absolutely.
Yeah.
And have you considered using fabric waste to make business cards?
I have, but I don't think that people would treat them in the way that I would expect them to.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that they would get scrunched up at the bottom of someone's handbag, and 3 weeks later they'd go in the bin.
Okay. Okay.
That
So
could be.
so I would test that assumption. I gave away fabric upcycled business cards for years, and people, even if they didn't treasure them, they'd still put the fabric swatch in a drawer.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
Give it a go, maybe.
but I love your idea of taking a picture. We're in the digital age. It doesn't make sense to make more stuff.
And it doesn't get lost.
Yes, yes, yes,
It's on their phone until they actively delete it.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And that takes an action, and that's quite a big thing.
Mm.
But you see, I'm old enough to remember my grandparents' shop. They had paper bags.
Yes.
They must have had 12 different sizes of paper bags because it was a sweetie shop. So it went from penny sweets up to big boxes of chocolate.
Yes.
And the council came in the 70s and insisted that they stopped using paper bags because they were bad for the environment.
Oh, wow.
And we had to use these new plastic bags that were coming in. And I can remember my grandparents saying, I can't see how plastic is any better than paper. I can actually hear the conversation. You know, I know where I was sitting in the kitchen, and I can hear my granddad and my nana having this two-way about the stupid council, and they can't possibly mean that plastic bags are better than paper bags.
Oh, wow, that's such a beautiful story, how things come full circle, hey?
Yep.
Oh, beautiful. So, Kate, I noticed that our time is nearly up. Thank you so much for such a beautiful and loving and interesting story today. It was so lovely hearing how much you love what you do. What advice would you give to somebody out there? Because you mentioned you gave up a job to start sewing full time. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about doing that?
I think that it's probably better to run it alongside your main career for some time so that you get a feel for the market in your area. It's very difficult to move from a standstill position to moving forwards. But if you've done little bits of jobs for people at weekends and in the evening, you know that those jobs are out there, so that it gives you some momentum to build on. For me, it was dance school shows that gave me my momentum. And doing those for the children built on that. But for other people, it might be doing alterations, it might be creating costumes, but run it alongside so that when you take that big jump, it's more of a splash into a puddle rather than a drown in the ocean.
You have shared such wonderful wisdom with us today. Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. It's been so nice talking to you.